Hello and welcome back, all of my loyal followers. Anyway, back to talking about the early years of the Civil War. By that I mean 1861, 1862, and a bit of 63. So we last left off talking about the Battle of Antietam and basically why, after the Battle of Antietam, the South basically resolved to fight mainly a defensive war. They just tried to hold back, let the enemy come to them, which usually gives you the advantage if you're the defender. Also, when they realized that the Union wasn't just going to, roll over and surrender after the first few defeats, the South knew that they were in it for the long haul, and they were hoping that um, Britain and France would come in on the side of the South, specifically Britain and France. Spain too, but specifically Britain and France. They were this close to recognizing Southern independence. And that's the key thing when you're fighting a revolution. When you're fighting a revolution, war for independence, whatever you want to call it, you need international recognition. In the modern age, you need other countries to look at you and say, hey, yes, you're a country. Because if you don't get that, then you're just a group of unruly terrorists in the world's eyes. But the South knew if they could get Britain and France to recognize Southern independence, Britain and France might give military and financial aid to the South. And they might try to force the northern states to recognize Southern independence. And if they could get that to happen, if they could hold on long enough, then they would come in on that side. However, Lincoln was very clever. Very clever. At the beginning of the war, Lincoln was afraid to outright ban slavery. He did not like the institution of slavery, but he didn't want to ban it because he was afraid of losing the border states, Missouri, Kentucky, Delaware, and Maryland. He was afraid that if he declared the war to be about ending slavery, those states would secede from the Union and join the Confederacy. And that would, Lincoln said that if he lost even Kentucky, he might as well just throw in the towel. The game would be up because they were of that much strategic value. However, Lincoln did know that if he had a crucial victory that would show that the Union Army was in the right, that they had the ability to win this war, then he could sway the border states to stay with him despite whatever he needed to do. And that's what the Battle of Antietam was. It was the first major Union victory. And after that, Lincoln was able to do something very, very clever. You see, the power, like the president, did not have the constitutional power. Look right here in the text. Lincoln knew the Constitution did not give him the power to end slavery. The Constitution did, however, give him the power to take property. And legally, and this is confirmed by the rulings of the Supreme Court at the time, legally, slaves were considered property. And I know this is going to sound weird, but this is how Lincoln was able to use that property to his advantage. Under the Constitution, he confiscated all of the Southern property because remember, he did not recognize their independence. In Lincoln's mind, the Southern states were rebellious states, but they were still American states. So he confiscated Southern property, i.e., slaves, and issued the Emancipation Proclamation declaring all enslaved peoples in the South to be free. And that encouraged tons of runaways. These people would cross the borders, they would run towards Union Army encampments, and they would join up as paid laborers, or later in 1863, African Americans and Black people in the North were allowed to enlist and join the army. They weren't allowed at first, but they were allowed later. And this helps turn the tide in the favor of the northern states. This is has a huge impact on northern morale and northern success. And we'll talk about that in later installations. Thank you.